So, first topic in this realm, and I've been working with election integrity groups since November 2020. So, including watching every single state legislature testimony in all of the battleground states. I watched them all. So I know where people saw, and I know what happened, sort of. So all of that to say, we're going to start our conversation with that around cleaning up the voter rolls. So Secretary Adams says on his website that he has eliminated 150,000 dead voters during this tenure. Current data shared about our voter registration across Kentucky's 120 counties indicates over-registrations as high as 117%, and I believe that would be Oldham County, right, Annie? Is that right? So what do you think is working about Secretary of State Adams' current process with getting the dead voters, like the ERIC system and things like that, and what do you think we need to change? And for this one, I am going to go to Alan.
One thing, I don't believe anything that's coming out of that man's mouth. To be honest with you, he's part of the swamp. The ERIC system's got to go. We've had 9 states, technically 8, going to be 9. All Republican in the last 65 days have done with the ERIC system. I consider naming them all to you, but I'm too tired of doing it. Shut the out.
Where's the microphone?
Huh? Okay, all right, can you hear me better this way? I guess I'm going to do it this way. The other problem is with election integrity, we've actually been fighting this since 1834. Our rolls have been messed up that long. We've had it cleaned up for a while, and then it got worse. It got cleaned up for a while. 4 of us legislators in 94, 96, 98, we got it cleaned up. Not all of it, we got a lot of it cleaned up. It's because I'll give you an example. In 94, I was going through all my rolls. Of course, I had to beat back things, the paper thing. I had over 1,700 dead people still voting in my county. You get a load of this one. There's 86 of them that were born between 1862 and 1868. That made me have probably the oldest county in the country. So I asked my county clerk. She says, "Well, I can't." I said, "No, here, I already found it for you." And I said, "Now you got about 48 hours to tell me you're going to do something, or I'm going to have a press conference right out in front of Bullitt County Courthouse." And that's exactly what I had to do. Then I brought stuff before our committee. By the way, I was vice chairman of elections and constitutional amendments. Now, I'm the only person who actually create election laws. I showed it for Secretary of State. I'll give you an example one of those later, but we're talking something different.
Yeah, we're talking about voter rolls.
I had 2 bills in the 90s that would fix some of this problem. Not all of it, but some of it. Specifically, with those who live in different states that are still registered to vote here. We got tens of thousands of people that way. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I was gone for 12 years from the state of Kentucky, was down in Savannah, Georgia, running TV stations. And the old prodigal son decided to come home in 2015. I went to register to vote, and guess who was still on the road? My dad died in 2001, December 3rd. My mom had him in 2020 because she found out, she gave me a look, and it was Chuck Franklin still there. Almost 20 years later. And I hear that a lot. My next door neighbor, his wife's been dead for 10 years, she's still on the road. So he really did a lot of cleanup, didn't he? You know, the problem that we have a lot of people do the talking, they've never done the walking. And I'm going to make sure that when I get in that office, first I got a couple of hoops to go through. Their system's gone. I'll make sure of that. But I'm also going to tell you this, and I'm going to clean up those roles, because what I'm going to do is give back the power to the county clerks. When I was in office, they used to have the power. They can remove people off. They can do a lot of different things, in which our Secretary of State somehow, or some of the other folks have gotten involved in, have taken a lot of power away from these county clerks. Some of the things I've been hearing, I've got an awful lot of them, over 30 of them, that have endorsed my campaign. Because what we have done, what he has done, is that he has ostracized himself from these county clerks. Every one of them I hear lives in Montgomery County, or Jefferson County, or Oldham County, or Bullitt County. Instead, he turns around and puts the blame on them. And it is essential, whether you elect me or elect Steve, The two of us, one of us, are going to clean this mess up. That's for daggone sure. And I can tell you this, I have legislative experience to get it done, and I've done it. And I also know that we got to make some changes in these laws to make it happen. Because the legislature's made some laws in there to mandate a lot of few things. We'll probably get a letter on that too, especially the mandating dates for voting. Unless you've been to Georgia, which I was there, and I had my people report on it. Most people vote almost a month in advance. They vote on Sundays. They have these church dinners. God's honest truth is, man, I had my reporters on it. They have these Sunday dinners where they have a dinner and then everybody gets on the bus and they go vote. Don't think there ain't some election fraud going on there? Think not.
All right, no, you're good. Steve,
Well, voter
cleaning
rolls.
up the voter rolls.
Yeah, voter rolls, okay. In 2015, yeah, just a little history. And if you've heard me talk before, Sam,
No.
how about
Oh,
that? There we go.
yay.
And then the Lord said, let there be sound. Voter rolls, right? All right. So in 2015, I told Allison Grimes, before anybody really knew to look at it.
And Steve, does everybody know who Allison Grimes is? Anybody not know who she
Allison
is?
Grimes was our Secretary of
Previous
State.
Secretary of State.
Right, before Michael Adams. Okay, I ran against her in 2015. And I sat on the KET debate stage with her and said, you have 18 counties that have more registered voters than you do citizens. And everybody just looked at me like, so what's your big deal? Well, it was a huge deal. Because number one, the federal government makes a very big deal of states to clean up their voter rolls. It's number one. Why? Because they understand that if you have fraud, the number one place that fraud exists are where your voter rolls are inflated. So I took note, 17 counties, or 18 counties at the time. By the time that race was over, we were up to 48 counties. But by then, Judicial Watch had already started to see how bad our rolls are. And they stepped in and they sued us, and they won. Allison Grimes had to clean up the voter rolls. So what did she do? She took 175,000 people, dumped them off the voter rolls. Mysteriously, they can do it when a judge says do it. Then, right before the election of 2019 happened, the ACLU sued with the Democratic Party, and all those people went back on their rolls. So we started at ground zero. We went down a little bit, and then right back up. Now go to this handout. This is real interesting. Our current Secretary of State in 2019, because I know I sat on the stage and I heard his promises left and right that he was going to clean this up, and we were all full of corruption in the Secretary of State's office, and he was going to do everything there was to clean it up. Did he do it? No. That's why he's not coming to Lincoln Day dinners when I'm there. Because when he says, I've done this, I follow up with this sheet that says, your own statistics say you didn't. As a matter of fact, they're worse. You can look at the top graph. Those 30 counties were the original 30 counties that were in the original lawsuit. Okay? You can see where we've ended. Miss Grimes has got the light gray line. She ended a little over 100%. Michael Adams, boy, I mean, he's really taken us up. We are now statewide, like in Spencer County alone, 110, 115%. Folks, we have an overall statewide average, if you go on the front, after the cleanup, of 99.49% people. I was just at a place yesterday that they were talking and encouraging about registration, voter registration. And they said, Mr. Neighbor, what do you think of that? I said, good on you, great. I love when people vote, please register, but where are we going to put these people? What do you mean? We're almost at 100%. Nobody was talking about this in 2015 when I first mentioned it. In 2019 was a great big issue, but we were promised a cleanup. Here we are in 2023, we still don't have a cleanup. As a matter of fact, the main problem with why these rolls are increasing is the ERIC system. If you look and see what happens when he says he took voters off, go back to this graph for a second. He did take voters off, but all he did was shuffle them around. He took 15, let's take 15 counties here, and he shuffled them, they went down, and he added them back to other counties. All he did was shuffle the chairs on the Titanic. And everybody's like, oh good, look at that, we've done this. Why? Because no one is looking at it. But that's why he's not at this debate tonight. That's why I have missing posters around the state saying, where is he? And he can have all the quips he wants about, well, I'm over here, I'm doing this, I'm being celebrated as, the national chair of the Secretaries of State. He's not doing his job here in Kentucky, and he needs to be fired. I'm not afraid to say it.
So Liberty ladies, I have a challenge for you. I would like for each and every one of you to look up Eric and figure it out. What is Eric? How does it work? There's some really good articles out there. Go find out what Eric is, because regardless of who gets elected Secretary of State, we are going to need to contact that office to say, make that go away, please. It's not working for us.
Can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
If you want to know good information on where to find about Eric, go to Eric.org. It's a website that we put together, and it's to educate people on what it is. It'll list 7 different articles right there about what Eric is, and then it'll have a petition at the bottom that you can fill out. Unlike the Secretary of State site, you can fill it out online and submit it. Just saying. You can submit that form, and we've had tons of people submit those forms, not just from Kentucky. I'm taking them from all over the United States. I'm doing a national broadcast on Saturday, and they're gonna bring that website up, and Kentucky's gonna be right in the spotlight. NBC, CBS News, the Associated Press, everybody's catching wind of how bad our voter rules are. I mean, we are one of the worst in the country. The other thing is we're the most secretive too. You try to get any information in the state of Kentucky about any of our elections, how they work, top secret. You'll get bare minimum information. But go to no2eric.org and check that out, and that should be a great site for you to get information on what Eric is. The other thing is, don't fall for the Secretary of State's initial response was, well, court ordered, we have to be in the Eric system. No, we don't. It was not a court order. It was a consent decree. He's an attorney, he knows what a consent decree is. And basically, if you don't want to use Eric, we use some other system. And there's plenty of them out there. There's real systems out there that actually do their job.
Okay, so I'm gonna
add
go
some,
ahead. I'm gonna ask Alan to
Yeah.
come in here. Let's hear it.
The ERIC system, as you all know, is powered run by SoS, supposed to be pretty well financed. But there's another one out there that I want to warn you of. It's one that Chris Christie's involved in right now. And lo and behold, guess who's the treasurer of that company? Michael Adams. And they're also, hey, we might want to look at that over my dead body. We're not going to do that. So let me tell you something. We're going to find a system that's going to work for everybody, that's going to be right. And here's the other thing. I want to give this back to where our county clerks or the Secretary of State, we can do this ourselves. If any of y'all knock on doors, I bet every one of y'all is knocking on doors. This last election, I went to help my brother out. I went to a house, and supposed to be 5 Republicans there. 5 different names too, by the way. Knocked on the door. Guy opened up the door, and I asked him, I was like, your name Mr. Smith? No. Are you not any go? I said, any of these people live here? No. Now, we used to do that. They used to send out cards to let you know, to see whether or not you were still registered to vote there. And I think one of the ladies that's working with my campaign sued the election board, Tammy Nolan, involved Election Integrity Network. She sued and made them. When's the last time we had that done again? Did they just recently do that? I'm not sure. I haven't seen one. They're supposed to look into these issues, and they're not doing it. It's just like with all these people that live in, I'll give you an example. Russell Weber, state representative from part of my county, about 6 weeks ago, election constitutional amendments committee, he had election boards in front of him. And asked him this one question. What are we doing about these people that live in other states? Well, I get this line. Well, let me tell you a story, is what he told me. My son-in-law and my daughter has lived in Indiana for 6 years, and they're still on our voting rolls. Really? We could have fixed that back in the 90s. I had a bill that actually came out of committee, but Eddie Munster Stumbo is what I always call him. And,
All right now, be nice.
I was. That was being nice. I mean, he used to call me Huey Long, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, ouch.
But we used to have some monstrous fights. They're still legendary. But the problem of it is they wouldn't want to do that because they knew we were on to something.